Welcome to the Women Money Business Podcast. I'm Dr. Pretty Basra, and today I've got with me Margriet Darwinkel. And if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, Margriet, sort of what you do, why you do it, and we can just sort of take it from there.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm Margriet. I'm 61 years old. I have 4 kids. They're grown up, and one of the kids unfortunately died, but I still
Oh,
feel that I have to say that I have 4 kids, otherwise it's not okay.
yeah.
And what I do is I focus especially on mentoring high female executives who are mothers, but also want to have a good business life.
And in terms of, I know your sort of brand label is Unlimited Mums. What does that mean? What does that stand for?
Well, it stands for that you don't have to feel limited when you became a mom, and that's a struggle I had myself. But that's what I see a lot around me. So I work under Unlimited Moms to help them to realize and thrive in both sides of their life.
And why did you go into that? Like, what was your journey sort of into that model, I suppose?
Well, I started first in corporate, so I worked as a consultant and in commercial jobs, and I was a bit impatient, so I went to consultancy, and then I started my own business because I found out that in consultancy and at work we exactly know what our vision is, our mission is, our strategy, but as soon as you come home, it feels like not knowing what to do. And at that time, I went to Tony Robbins in San Diego. And when I came back, it was as if the whole business plan dropped down. And I started Happy Family Life in the first place. And a few years later, I wrote a book, Parenting from the Heart. And I designed a organizer based on the Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. So what I actually did is kind of management philosophies translated to how you can use that as a mom, as parents.
Okay. And in terms of, you mentioned obviously you've had a loss of a child. Has that influenced your journey into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, it absolutely did. Because when you're confronted with such a major thing in your life, you start thinking about what am I doing, and am I still doing the right things, or am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my life? So it was a major influence on what I did. Yeah,
How long have you been doing it now, Margaret?
I'm an entrepreneur for 22 years.
Yeah.
Quite a long time for now. So yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of sort of the women that you work with, you say that you work with sort of executive women. What does you working with them look like?
I have various levels where you can step in, but my major program is a year program in which I really help them to design their new life plan, which all life dimensions included, and also going back to what is it where I'm really passionate about, but also looking at their mother archetype and see what kind of a mom am I in the combination of work and life. So that's somehow the bridge that I'm building together with them to get them there.
And in terms of the mum archetype, the mother archetype, I've never heard of that before. So what does that mean? Like what archetypes are there?
Well, I designed it myself based on a psychological scan that is used in corporates, especially. And then I contacted the psychologist, and I said, "Why can't we make such a thing for mothers, so that they know in the dynamics of work and life, of business and private life, that they know more about how they deal with those things." So we designed the test, and some of them are the visionary guides, so that are especially the moms who are looking ahead, who have a vision on all the things. But there's also the strategic mom who does it more from the target and knowing where to go, or the improvising mom who always has a solution for
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And that's very solution oriented is very practical. but
Yes.
for your environment, it sometimes can be a pain in the ass. So so I have 8 archetypes, and with those archetypes, there's a report so that they can really understand, why am I behaving this way? What is my thinking style? What is my behavior style? And so I kind of unravel and then build up the plan again, their plan.
And then, so you've spoke about 3 archetypes there. What are the other 5?
Oh, you want me to tell them by hand?
Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry if you're not on top of your head. No, it's
I
okay.
can share them because I have a short description of all of them.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah, I can share them later on.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And do you find that there's always an archetype that a mum fits into, or do you sometimes find that she can be a little bit of a combination?
Yes, there's always one which is very dominant, but when they fill in the scan, they discover that there are 2 or 3 in particular that they resonate mostly with. And what I then do in the mentoring is we unravel, because sometimes the archetype that shows up is the archetype that they became to be. So it's a kind of survival archetype. And then in the other 2, it might be that there's the original archetype. So that's what we even more unravel during the mentoring. But there are
So,
always 1 or 2 that are really standing out and which
no.
are really dominant.
So would you find that, for example, that women that have had some form of trauma will show up as one archetype, and then after working with you, would they end up coming out of it a different archetype?
Yeah, that's possible. I had that in the coaching sometimes when a woman comes to me after trauma or after a divorce or whatever reason there is that she says, I want you to help me, that by unraveling it, we discovered that she got in a survival mode and that she felt very strategic and goal oriented. But when we really dive in at a deeper level, we discover that she's much more the innovative mom or much more the visionary mom, but she lost kind of confidence. And
Mm.
that's why the scan, of course, the scan is as neutral as possible. But what I found out that some of the differences are when you really look in depth to the archetypes, that then you can come to the true archetype, really.
And do you know, sort of, for example, I'm a mom. I've got three children, and how, like, I suppose I'm just thinking, if I'm me, or I am me, and what would make me think, do you know what? I think I need to look at this. I've got, like, a couple of businesses. I am quite goal driven in terms of what I want to achieve in certain aspects of my life. Why? So obviously, before speaking to you now, I didn't think that was anything that was of concern. I'm not saying it is of concern, it's just so different. But then what would sort of direct me, or what should I be looking out for, where I should think, do you know what, maybe I need to sort of look at realigning what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
based on what is what I'm doing, what I should be doing,
Yeah.
or am I just doing it because I don't know any different? Like, what would be that light bulb moment that I think, do you know what, I need to speak to Margaret?
Well, the light bulb moment might be that you discover that, like I said in the beginning, at work, you know exactly what to do. And even then, sometimes it's a challenge. But then you're a mom or you are parenting together with the father of your kids, and you find out that some things are not as easy to discuss, not easy to do. Because in parenting, of course, you also get confronted with your own your own triggers, your own things, because the children are your mirror. So, and that's where the mother archetype comes in, that you get to understand how you deal with things in the dynamics of work and life balance as being a mother. And for me, motherhood was, yeah, one of the most important things after I got children, especially after Charlotte died. I thought, this is one of the tasks that I want to be at my best at. So that was the reason why I wanted to help other moms to discover, who am I really, not only at work or in relationships, but also as a mom, because that can really help your kids to become the greatest version of yourself, but you can also get less stressed, less bothered, less burned out, because I see a lot of women getting a burnout. So it gives a lot of ease in being a mom.
And I suppose the thing is, when you are a mum, nobody gives you a handbook or a manual. Well, I suppose you can buy one. But then in terms of like whether you've got the time to read it once you've got like a newborn baby is another situation altogether. I think for certain things in life you can read about stuff and teach yourself things and self-educate, which I think is really powerful. But I think when you've got a child and it's all on you to raise that child, there's
Mm-hmm.
no, unless you've read all the books in the world on parenting, you don't want to damage that child by reading a book and thinking, right, I'm going to follow that person's method because they're saying this, and then next week you think, oh, I didn't like that one, I'll choose something else. So I think there is something beautiful but also very difficult about being a mother or being a parent in general, because we haven't got a guidebook, we haven't got a handbook.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned before, I think we sort of parent sometimes either the way that we were parented because we think, well, that was good, or you go the opposite because you don't feel you were parented as you would like to have been, so you parent
Mm-hmm.
in a different way. But then I suppose there's no right or wrong in how you do it, but then ultimately you are responsible for what, raising that child.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge level of responsibility as a person, whether that's a mum or dad. And it's a big weight, I think, that we carry
Mm-hmm.
as a parent. And you don't know whether it's worked until it goes wrong, I suppose, in a way, because
Yeah.
you just thought, in the weirdest way possible. You might think, oh yeah, I'm doing all right, and then your kid does something, and you're thinking, oh, what have they done that for?
Yeah.
And I remember reading something not so long ago, or watching something I can't remember, and they were saying, like, when your child is like saying that they don't want any more food, and then you're saying to them, well, just finish it, just finish it. And again, like when I was a child, that's what they, like, mum and dad would say, you sit at the table and you're going to finish food, and until you finish food you can't move. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, and I don't, and before I sort of listened or read that, that's what I would do with my kids. I'm like, no, finish it, just finish it. Like, you need to finish it. And then they'd be like, I'm not hungry, mom, as you hear, like, and then the snack cupboard half an hour later. But then it made me reassess and reevaluate. And I just thought, you know what? Like, am I teaching my child to, or making them overeat
Mm-hmm.
because of the way that my parents were like, you need to finish that? Because when you sort of go out with your friends and things, and you say you have to go for dinner, you're all having different meals and you've all got different appetites. You all eat sort of different quantities. And I'm just thinking, well, my children are no different. Like, why am I? Because I've got, obviously, like I said, I've got three, and they all eat at a different sort of pace,
Mm-hmm.
rate, and then sort of quantity wise. And I just think, until you've had that time to reflect and think, what am I thinking about what I'm saying to them, or I'm just doing what's been done to me? And that can be good and bad, I suppose. Like you mentioned, it's not always, no, they do become a mirror of you. But then I suppose it's you looking at yourself in the mirror to say, do I want them to be a mirror of me, or do I want them to
Mm-hmm.
be different to
Yeah,
me?
absolutely. Yeah.
And I suppose with the sector that you work with, like executive women, life is so busy, in general anyway. And I think when you're going sort of as executive or board level, it's just a whole different level of busy. And it's almost like sometimes it's an inconvenience if your children sort of disagree with you. You just think, just do it. Like, I haven't got time, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't get that time back. And I think
Yeah,
and then I
true.
think a lot of people realize that when it unfortunately it's too late.
Late. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is really powerful to make people question now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
what
you
am I?
see it happening now, pretty, at least in
Yeah,
my country. I live in the Netherlands, and
yeah,
there are a lot of problems with the social media with the kids and with their all kinds of devices. And the big problem is not only the kids, it's the parents who don't set boundaries, and they let them behind the screen all the time, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing what they're watching. And what I found out and what I helped the like you said, a lot of female executives are very busy. So when you come home, you also have the tendency to choose for what's most easy
Easiest.
to
Yeah.
agree upon, and you don't want, you're tired and your head is full and you don't want to have a quarrel or a discussion or whatever, so you let them. But in letting them, there, that's where the consequences are. So what I did after my first child was born, I looked in all kinds of parenting books and I thought, oh my God, I already did everything wrong when I listened to all these charts and things they should be doing by now. So that's the reason why I wrote my own book, because I bumped into Eva Hoffman, who's actually from the UK. And we wrote together the book on parenting from the heart, not as a guide, but it contains a lot of exercises to reflect on, why am I doing this, and what are my values, and what is most important to me. So it really helps you to get more conscious about your way of parenting. And I think that's what missing now, because we're so busy in surviving, that we don't take the time anymore to go in depth on, why am I doing it this way, and what do I want to my kids to be and to teach them, and am I the example now of how I want them to see me. So
Mm-hmm.
those are all kinds of questions that I try to answer, because you can do it when it's too late, or one of your children has really problems. But I think when you start from the beginning, parenting is fun. Yeah, it takes time, but then you also get the reward for what you do.
And I think it's the questions are powerful, I think, because like I mentioned, you can read about things and try and educate yourself, but then it's not until somebody asks you, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you making them eat the food, or forcing them to try and eat the food, or why are you saying to
Mhm.
them it's okay to go on your tablet, or why you're not saying it's not okay to go
Yeah.
on your tablet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think when you're forced to answer that question, it makes it real, because I think you can read and say, oh, this is what you should do, this is what you should
Hmm.
do, and then you think, okay, yeah, that's what I should do, but then what are you actually doing right now, and is that okay, and what effect is that going to have
Yeah.
on your
A lot of
children?
decisions are taken from the aspect of time. Do I have time? Can I afford it? Can I do it? But the real questions come from why. From
Mm.
which things do I think are okay, and which things do I think are absolutely not okay? And to have the answers on that, you have to know what you value most. And if you really embody that, then making choices and setting boundaries is much easier, because it is really who you are. But when you take the decisions from here because you're busy or you haven't thought about it before, then you get a lot of tension and discussions with your child, because it doesn't really feel if you are really saying what you want to say and being what you want to be.
And I think often with sort of those questions, you asking yourself is one thing, but having somebody ask you them, like yourself, that has the knowledge, the skill set, and the experience, that conversation is different, because it's not just. I think as humans, we do tend to self blame, or either self blame or become defensive.
Hmm.
And instead, if you ask yourself that question, you might say, "Well, yeah, I do that, but." XYZ, and I do that, but da, 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 whereas like if you work with somebody like yourself, then you've got that soundboard, but then a soundboard in a positive way, because it's the reframing of it, and
Hmm.
just to hold the mirror up to you and say, look at what you're saying. What you're saying, what you're doing are two different things. And I think if you're left to your own devices to try and self-educate and self-reflect, it'll only get you so far
Hmm.
before you start sort of making excuses for yourself and saying like, it's okay because I'm busy. I'll do it then.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't have done that because I'm busy. And
Yeah.
time, like you say, time is such a big factor. But having somebody to work it through with, that has the toolkit to help you, because that's the other thing. If you identify that you're doing something that you don't agree with and doesn't align with your values, how do you then shift that if you don't have
Hmm.
those tools to shift that?
Yeah, you shift that by becoming conscious in the first
Yeah,
place. It
yeah.
sounds very, familiar maybe, but you're not used to asking yourself those questions.
Yeah,
And if someone
absolutely.
helps you asking those questions and become a really conscious parent, and from there also a better businesswoman or entrepreneur, because then you are not, you feel like this is the same person. I'm at home doing the same things as I'm actually doing at work, only the packaging is different and the surrounding is different. But because the most problems arise when you constantly feel I'm doing it, but you blame yourself, you start feeling guilty because it's just not that the way you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And that costs you a lot of energy, which influences work, which influences your relationship. So being helped by asking yourself the right questions and going in depth on why you are doing certain things, your thinking patterns, your behavior, becoming aware if you're just copying what your parents did or that you really want to do it in a different way, that really helps, that investigation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think often in society, especially like you've touched on like digital and social media and things for children, but not just for children, I would say for parents as well, because unfortunately, we do compare ourselves to other people. Now, other people like paint this perfect picture of they've got an amazing family and they get on so well. Because you see, they don't create it, you create it for them in your head. You think, oh, they look like they're doing amazing. Why
Mhm.
would my children not want to play with me like that? Or why are my children not happy like that? And I think social media, yes, it's really good on one hand where you've got access to so much information and knowledge in the palm of your hand. But on the flip side, I think it has caused a lot of negativity and self-reflection, but not always in the best way possible, because you haven't got that voice to help you navigate through that self-reflection
Mhm.
often accurately. And you almost sort of go in on yourself thinking, I'm not a great parent because look at her, she's doing all of this and I can't do that, and you start questioning yourself. So,
Mhm.
and like you say, and it does impact, it does impact your work as well as your home life, as well as your friendships and things. Because if you're not happy and in line yourself, it just falls through to all avenues of your life. So I think the digital and social media world has got a lot to answer to, really. I don't think we'll see the full effects of it
Mhm.
until several years time. But it's what we can do now, like you mentioned, what can we do now to change, to try and shift that narrative and change it, is really important. So you mentioned that you do the year-long program, and so can that be accessed via your website, Margaret?
Well, it can be accessed by my website, but I also have a detailed description about what it is because at the moment I'm redesigning my program. But they can have access to it if they want to. We can put
Okay,
it in the
perfect.
show notes, no problem. Yeah.
Perfect, brilliant.
Yeah,
So
and what I
thank you.
wanted to add to that,
Yeah.
you said having a picture of the ideal family and the nice pictures. What I teach the parents or the mothers is that to make a vision board and have in mind what you really want to do, because your own thoughts and your own feelings, they also determine what it finally will look like. So having your own vision on family is very important. Not looking at others people's pictures and things like that, but build your own vision board. And like you also do at work with designing a vision is very important, because then it also gets very concrete for the whole family, because they know where you're heading to, then you know the experience you want to have and the things you want to achieve. And so that gives a lot of cohesion, connection in the family.
Yeah, so it's almost like envisaging your perfect life, isn't it? And how do you get there? Navigating to achieve that goal, I
Yeah,
suppose.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been amazing speaking to you today, Margaret. We've covered so much interesting things,
Thank
and I think
you.
so. No, thank you, and it's so relevant to moms, dads, any parent really, even grandparents, I suppose. I think sometimes grandparents think, why are my children parenting like that? It's quite interesting to see it from their lens as well. So I'll include all of your links and things in the show
Yeah,
notes.
sorry that I didn't know the archetypes by head, but it was
Yes,
also because I
I'm going to
what?
ask you a lot of questions this time, because then that means people have to go and have a little look and then read a bit further about it, which is really good. And
Yeah.
the archetype section I'm really interested in, so I'd be really keen to sort of
Yeah, I
look
will
at
send
those
it to you also
as well.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really good.
And I do my work in Dutch and in English. So that's what
Okay.
the transition I'm in now. So all the materials are now, like the book is already in English, but also the archetypes are in English. So it has to be bilingual because I really feel that yeah, I have
Got
to
a lot
reach
to
the moms
share. Yeah,
internationally.
got a
So
lot to share. So
yeah.
I'll also include a link to the book as well in the show notes. So thank you so much for today, Margaret. Really appreciate your time. It's been really interesting speaking to you about what you're doing. And I'll see you guys on the next one. See you
Okay.
later.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.